While there's no denying that the graceful lines and elegant artwork make this home shuttle sewing machine a real beauty, there's also no denying that, like most antique sewing machines, she has her idiosyncrasies. One such peculiarity with the home shuttle is that if the tensioning wheel is polished very, very smooth, even with 2 loops of thread wrapped around it, the thread can slide over the smooth surface without engaging the tensioning wheel, which is supposed to turn. If you can't control the tension, which is what this is supposed to do, then you can't get a good stitch. Now, I've tried solving this problem by wrapping more loops around the tensioning wheel with the idea that that's going to create more drag. And that would seem to work until you actually start sewing. Here's what happens. You see how the jerking of the thread creates slack in this length of the thread? That eliminates any tension on the loops, so there's no pressure of the thread on the tensioning wheel to keep the tensioning wheel engaged. One thing I found that helped a lot was to make a little rubber disc, which has a lot of drag, and slip it on there. And now when you crank it, you don't get that loop. That little bit of rubber prevents the thread from losing its tension. Unfortunately, while this means you may be able to sew because this gives you enough tension to get a good stitch, it still isn't engaging this wheel, so you can't adjust your tension. Now, instead of the rubber pad, I tried one of these traditional felt pads, and this actually made things worse. It made the spool turn easier. What I did find helped was adding a little weight in the form of 3 large washers. That provides enough weight to press down on the rubber and give enough drag so that the wheel now engages. You can see it turning, which means we can now adjust the tension. This business of putting a weight on top of the thread spool to make the machine work properly seemed a little bit like, well, a Rube Goldberg solution. You know, it just didn't seem right. But then my wife, after a lot of searching, found a manual for the home shuttle family sewing machine. And here it is. Now, this has some different features. If you look at the end plate here, the tensioning system is a little bit different. And that's because this is a manual put out by the Grover and Baker company, who had licensed the right from Gold Medal to produce these machines. So they made some changes. But what it does show is this odd little dome over the spool. And if you go into the manual itself and read it, they say that in the threading process, the first thing you do is you put the spool on the standard, which is the shaft that the spool runs on, and then you put the weight, the cone weight, on top of the spool. So according to the manual, there is supposed to be a cone-shaped weight on top of the spool to create the tension you need so that the tension wheel runs true to form. This is interesting because in the hundreds of pictures of both home shuttle and improved home shuttle machines, I have never once seen one with this dome on here. So evidently, because this just slips on, this is one of the first pieces to be lost from this very interesting and valuable machine. Now, while a stack of washers does the job just fine, in the interest of making the restoration of this machine as historically accurate as possible, I made my own little metal dome out of a piece of scrap cast iron. It weighs 30 grams and provides just enough weight to help the tension wheel do its job. So, if you have a home shuttle sewing machine and you want to fix this problem, try some weights, and I think you'll be happy at the results. Thanks for watching.